do you come from? Now, for many, that might seem an innocent enough question. But for me as a child, later a teenager, and sometimes even today, it is the dreaded question. Now, I could often detect ahead of time if it were coming, and on other occasions it would catch me off guard. But in both cases, my physical reaction would be the same and immediate. It would begin with a drop in my stomach, followed by a slow red creep across my cheeks. Luton would be my initial response, though I suspected my strategy futile. No, where are you really from? Would follow. Relentless. My next move on the identity game of chess would be to counter with, well, I was born in London. I've always been particularly proud of the fact that I was born in the capital, undeniably one of the greatest cities in the world. There were few things to be proud of on my original birth certificate, but this nugget, the fact that I'd been born in the great metropolis, surely was. Because if I'd been born in London, didn't that help to make me, well, really British? Couldn't that fact add some extra brownie belonging points? Because that's what this was all about, really. Back in the 1980s and 1990s, when this mainly occurred, I had this quiet sense of knowing that if the person asking the question thought that I was from somewhere else, then that must mean I don't belong here. And if that is the case, where on earth did I belong? But back to my interrogation, and by this point I had usually frustrated the person asking the question so much they could no longer hide it. No, where are your parents from? Well, yes, of course. I knew that's what you really wanted to know all along. But why should I make this easy for you when none of this is easy for me? It was the final base layer of the dreaded question. What they all really wanted to know and what I heard them asking was, where is your father from? Because I had always known that my birth mother was white, and that's straightforward, isn't it? We're in England and white equals English equals good, right? But I am brown. And as I mentioned, this is the 80s or the 90s, depending on where you've caught me on my childhood journey, and well, brown, it's a little problematic. Brown doesn't quite fit. It needs to be explored. Brown requires an explanation so that a suitable box can be agreed upon for me to be placed within. And because of all of that, to my younger self, brown meant shame. I felt like I was walking the earth with a target on my forehead or a spotlight in my face that wasn't bringing adulation and applause, but exclusion and judgment. And the biggest shame was that I didn't know the answer to the question. I'd never known. And who doesn't know who their father is or was, or in the least where they have come from? It was written from the start for me, recorded in a cold council office on Upper Street M1 in the winter of 1978. Father, unknown. And only later, as I grew in age and consciousness, coming to terms with my adoption and having grown up in a white family, did I begin to realize that so much was unknown about me. Where did I come from? And who did I belong to? Over 40 years of rootlessness and of strangers trying to guess my ethnicity like contestants on some low-rent TV quiz show. Decades of not being white enough to pass unnoticed and not being black enough to belong to the culture. But the thing with being from nowhere means that I can be from everywhere. And when I was pregnant, looking down at my blooming belly, getting ready to birth my own firstborn, I realized that I could decide the answer for me and for my daughter, yet to emerge in this questioning world. I could choose for both of us so that she would always have the confidence to answer and never feel less than or stigmatized. We all have the power and the agency to tell the stories of our lives as we see fit. We can decide who we are, where we've come from, and most importantly, where we're going. we can give ourselves permission, and in doing so, retain the ultimate power of self-acceptance and self-love. So where am I from? I can tell you. I'm proudly from North London, where I was born and where I live today. I'm from Liverpool, where I first spread my wings just like those famous Merseyside birds, leaving home for the first time and tentatively becoming a young woman. I'm from New York, where my soul has resided since my 5-year-old self saw pictures of the Chrysler Building and Central Park in a 1980s coffee table book, almost as big as me, and my little heart knew that I belonged right there. I'm of the ocean. My DNA tells me I'm from Lagos in the Gulf of Guinea and Jamaica in the Caribbean Sea. But like all good contradictions, I'm from landlocked Tipperary and a grey RAF base in Bruggen, Germany. I am all of these places, but mostly none of that really matters. Because the better question to ask is, why am I here? Am I living with grace and with purpose? And luckily for all of us, that's another question we get to answer for ourselves.